start that. It's very slow. Okay. See, we have Ken Whitco. I know I heard him. So James Hairston.
Here.
And Mark Pila.
Here.
Alan Hart.
Here.
Ray Dotson. Hold on, I just realized. Okay, I couldn't see my attendee, so if he was here, I couldn't let him in. Sorry. Okay, so I did not see Ray Dotson yet. And Mark Terry.
Here.
Okay. And Todd Wolf.
Here.
Karen Ferreira.
Here.
And Teresa, do you want me to use your whole name? Am I using Teresa Imholt King?
No, you can use King. That's fine.
Okay, I didn't want to offend either way. So
No, you're fine.
hi, she's here.
Hi.
And then we do have Assistant Chief John Unfrid in place of Mike tonight. And we have Scott Adams, Assistant Fire Chief. I don't see Brandstetter here yet.
I don't think he's coming.
I was going to say, I feel like he said he may not be able to make it because he's doing the same thing that Mike is having to do.
Right.
So we may be without him tonight. So I think that's everybody.
Okay, thank you. If everyone has looked at the minutes, could I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Minutes are approved. Thank you. Were there any public comments?
I received none.
Okay, and Mike Brandstetter is not here tonight. He didn't send me any comments. So we'll go on with fire department comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Scott, do you have any comments for fire department?
I do. I've got a few things. We still have one of our lobbies is open in University Place, Station 31. The rest of all of our stations are a call for appointments. So if anyone has any services that they need, maybe a car seat checked, maybe a ski helmet, or maybe a smoke alarm or a CO alarm or something like that, you can call our business line and we'll have someone take care of you. We're shooting for a CERT class in February. It's going to be a little bit smaller than most of our CERT classes. They're usually about 25 people, and we're going to limit it to about 15 people that are vaccinated. And so we've got a nice list over the last couple of years that we haven't been able to get through. So we've got lots of very interested folks for that program. Call volume for the month of November. If you're interested, 1,449 service calls. That's a 10% increase over last year. And that's about 48 calls a day. Our call volume so far this year, it's been increasing. We're tracking to be about 9% more than last year. And so far with 11 months under our belt, we're at 16,225 calls for the year. Recently, as far as structure fires, we've had a few smaller type structure fires, some of them in abandoned and vacant buildings. We did have one, there was a van fire the other night where there were 3 occupants. It was in the early morning. 2 people were transported and 1 person actually did not make it out of the van. And that incident is still being investigated. And I know Lakewood Police obviously is very involved in getting to find out what happened there. So we've also been talking about our CARES, connected CARES position that's going to help us with some of the mental health patients that we have. We are going to do a job announcement here, I think at the end of the week, and do interviews in January and then have a hire date around the first week of February. We have a new email system for those of you that go to our website, westpiercefire.org. If you go there, you go to our website, we have a new email system where if you stay on the website for longer than 10 or 15 seconds, it will prompt you to see if you'd like to get alerts from the fire department. And you can actually select what topics you'd like to be alerted, whether it be, if it's for hiring for firefighters or admin staff or mechanics, or if you just want safety information, or you want to know about when our next event is. We have an email system now set up for that, so that's pretty neat. And then don't forget too, if you're part of like a Kiwanis club, or you have a homeowners association or something, if you need anyone to come talk to your group, we have firefighters and prevention staff that can come and talk about, CPR subject. We can talk about general safety or home inspections or preparedness topics, or just really whatever you'd like to talk about. We'd be happy to come and do a presentation for you. And the last thing tonight, for the holidays, we're doing a food drive and a Santa drive-through. And so if everyone gives me the blessing when I'm done with my report, if there's no questions, I'm going to jump out and go collect some food and say hi to the kiddos. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Scott?
No.
No questions? Well, thank you very much. I guess you're going to go collect some food then.
Good luck.
It's going to be chilly out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bundle, layers.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Scott.
Have a nice holiday. Thank you.
You too.
Merry
Dear John.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Scott.
Okay, police chief comments.
Yeah, so our third quarter report was attached, and you've seen all that. So I'm not going to go through it line by line. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have after looking through it. Year to date, we're still trending down in terms of overall crime. It's a little bit confusing because then you look at the next couple charts and third quarter is up, but if you take the entire year, we're actually below 2020 and below 2019 numbers. Third quarter is typically our busiest quarter, so it's July, August, September, the summer months. More chance for people to get out and about, and bad behavior comes from that. A couple of areas I wanted to highlight is the number of shots fired. We have seen a really significant increase just really this year, and particularly in the last couple months. And a lot of these actually are not actual shootings in the term of someone being hit or targeted. A lot of them are just, we get a call, 911 calls, citizen hears shots fired, we show up, there's shell casings in the road, so we know it's not made up, but no discernible victim. A lot of them have been targeted towards people, either houses or cars, but nobody hit. But just a lot of shootings, which is just kind of alarming. I mean, we've been lucky that a lot of people haven't been hit, but quite a few more. We don't really have an answer as to why that is, why the significant increase. And if you look, it's 2 and 3 times what we had in 2019. So it's just something that we're focusing on and trying to watch. We do collect all those casings and we put those into the database, so they analyze the shell casing and can match them to other gun crimes. So we are trying to link them to other crimes as best we can, but just something that jumps out at us. MBTRs are up fairly significantly, and that's kind of started during COVID. Word sort of got out with the criminal element that lower level crimes were not really bookable. MBTR is a felony offense, so that would go into the county jail. However, the county jail wasn't taking those types of crimes because of COVID, and they're still really not because they have to keep their population down due to the COVID restrictions. So that kind of got out, and so they have realized that there's really not a lot of repercussion for stealing cars. So MVTRs are up. And then sort of tied to that is the eluding. And this is kind of a twofold problem. One is that also is a lower level crime just by itself. So that's not just eluding. An officer is not bookable into the county jail. And then House Bill 1054, the police tactics bill that went into effect in July, severely limited when we can pursue. So really the only time that we can pursue is for a Class A felony. That's your most serious crime. So murder, manslaughter, drive-by shooting, robbery with a deadly weapon, those kinds of things. And again, the criminal element picks up on this. So it's gotten to the point where just about every single shift, some vehicle will flee, will just take off from the officers. They'll turn on the lights to try to stop it, and it'll just take off. And we legally, in the past, we would have been able to pursue them. Now we can't. So we shut off our lights and write a quick report. And so that's why we included the eluding pursuit. And that's at the end of the third quarter. That's going to be a lot higher by the end of the year. But it just kind of shows you how many vehicles are, just taking off from us. And I think that has kind of a trickle down effect in terms of like traffic safety. So I know one of the concerns from the last meeting was, people running red lights, and I've seen that as sort of a breakdown. I had somebody Sunday afternoon and pulled out in the middle of 59th and 100th and doing donuts, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're starting to see more of those kinds of things. So we're keeping an eye on that trend, but ultimately we can't pursue them. So we're kind of limited in what we can do. We're going to try an emphasis coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And so we're going to put some unmarked cars out and try to catch and just follow these people after they take off from our marked units, follow them and see if we can get them to a location where we can take them into custody. That's kind of the trends that we're seeing. Other news, Amtrak, as you know, has started fully running their Point Defiance bypass. That's been a big concern for the city for years. We never got a firm answer. They always said, it gets up to 79 miles an hour. We could never get them to tell us how fast it would run in Lakewood. So I had our traffic unit go out with our radar gun and actually, shoot the train. So they're running about 55 or 60 miles an hour through Lakewood. So they're slowing down as they come north because they stop in Tacoma, and then they're starting up in Tacoma. So they're not hitting full speed either way, but about that. Sound Transit did pay for summer officers to do some emphasis work around the rail crossing. So officers kind of camped out, and then if anybody stopped on the tracks, they'd pull them over and do some education. And Sound Transit paid for that. And then we also did a lot of social media work with the city in West Pierce and trying to put that word out. One of the new tactics that we've, speaking of social media, that we've started is we have some select officers on each of the patrol squads that are trained and allowed to use social media. So you're going to start seeing some kind of more live feeds in our social media, from officers on graveyard, that instead of having to go to our PIO, the next morning, they can just do it, tweet it out right then, and just happening crimes or good arrests or some positive stories out there. Speaking of positive stories, I want to pat Joanna on the back. She runs our fallen officer food drive and coordinates that. A lot of people, put in some work, but she's the one that really pulls it all together. So I want to congratulate her. Tentative amounts that she came up with this year is we had 10,429 pounds of food, $12,905 in donations, which apparently, according to Mark, the chief was out strong-arming people to get. And then 55 units of blood, which helps save 165 lives. So over the last 12 years, we've raised over 190,000 pounds of food and $235,000 since we started that. So another successful year, and I want to thank Joanna for that. as well as I think some of you were out there helping as well. So it's a team effort, but it was very successful. And then lastly, just an update, staffing. It's still, an issue that we're working on. I know the last meeting, the chief updated that we had 5 new hires coming on board between laterals and new hires. And I'm pleased to say that we have 8 new hires in addition to those 5. These 8 are new hires, so they still have to go to the academy. They're going to start on December 15th. And unfortunately, the problem with this is the state basic law enforcement academy. It kind of goes and fits and starts because people stop hiring and then they all of a sudden need to hire and it's hard to get spots. So we can't get them into the academy to even start until March. That's a 5-month academy and then 3.5 months of on-the-job training. So that's quite an extended time. But we don't want to lose these candidates. So we're going to bring them on in December. And then we're going to put them through our own basic academy, a very short version of it. And then we're going to put them into the police training officer program. So they're on the job training. They're going to get part of that before they go to the academy. They'll go to the academy and then they'll finish up. So it's going to speed up that time frame. And it's a great model. Where I started with the sheriff's department, they do that model. So you do some of your on-the-job training before the academy, which is great because once you go to the academy, you have sort of a basis. You've seen some of the field work. And so when they teach you the classroom part of it, it makes a lot more sense. So, and it's going to speed it up to get them on the street. So we're pretty excited about that. That group of 8 hires is going to the academy together, and that's the largest hire group in our department history. So if you remember, when we started the department, we had a group of 7 new hires, and then everybody else was a lateral. So we're pretty excited about that. At this point, knock on wood, we're through the known requirements that we have this year. We have 1 or 2 on the horizon next year that we know of. But for now, I think we've stabilized and we're starting to get some of our people back off of and then we also have 4 to 5 laterals that we're taking a look at and trying to hire here soon. So laterals are obviously a lot quicker and they can get out on the street. So once those laterals come on, then we can start putting people back into the investigative units and the neighborhood policing units that we had to really draw down. So hopefully, I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel and hopefully sooner rather than later.
James, you have your hand up for a question?
Yeah, for John. John, I was looking at the final slide you had on your presentation for staffing. Most of special ops has been reassigned to patrol. Did you actually disband that department, or what's the story behind that?
No, we actually, several had rotated out. We needed them in patrol. And so they were due to rotate out anyways. We just pulled them and put them back in patrol early. And that left the 1 detective and 1 sergeant and really can't do much work there anyways. And so we just took them and temporarily, we're not doing vice enforcement. We'll help other task forces if they have cases in Lakewood, but we're not doing our own cases. And they're focused strictly on the background. So the unit is not going away. Once we get the staffing, we will fill that back up. Get it up and running.
Okay, Ken, you had a question.
Yeah, hey, John, I'm curious, how long is the basic Lakewood basic training for the new hires? And then when exactly would they be hitting the street with their FTOs?
So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of replicate the Reserve Academy, the Reserve Officer Academy. So about 4 to 6 weeks. And so they'll start that in early January and then mid-February. So they'll only have about 3 or 4 weeks on the street before they go to the academy. But we can subtract that from the other end of the academy. So instead of 14 weeks, they might only need 9 or 10 weeks post-academy.
Okay.
Sorry, so they will hit this, they will go through the basic academy and be with their FTOs in March timeframe? Is that what I heard?
So we're going to put them through our own basic academy. They'll get commissions, so they'll get badge and gun and all that. And then they will work with a PTO here in Lakewood for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then start the state basic academy. So they'll get a lot of the same things that they got. They're going to get basic criminal procedures, defensive tactics, firearms, and that sort of thing in our own academy. They'll repeat some of that in the basic academy, but that's not going to hurt anybody. So they'll do about 3 to 4 weeks before, and then they'll finish up at the back end.
Okay, thank you. You were breaking up there a little bit, and I didn't quite catch all of that, so, but I got it.
Sorry.
No worries, thank you. Especially if you get to drive.
Yeah.
Do I forget what's the course, the driving course?
Oh, EVOC, emergency vehicle.
Yeah. If you get to do that twice, then that's really awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately, they only get to do that once. It's too hard to get the track. Too many people want it.
Okay, Ray, you're next. You have a question.
Hey, thanks. Is there a measurable impact on any vaccination immunization requirements that have deterred somebody from continuing to serve on the police force, or have you had to make any changes to accommodate that?
We have not. We are in a kind of a holding pattern. So the city does qualify under the presidential directive for mandatory vaccine. And the governor has already stated that Washington is going to follow that directive. However, that directive is held up in federal appeals court in Ohio. So, and from what I hear, it's likely going to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we're just kind of in limbo. Once the court makes a ruling on it, if it stands, then we will follow that. And then it's hard to tell. Because of medical privacy, we haven't really delved into how many people have been vaccinated and not. I know there's some officers that don't want to get vaccinated like every other employer. We're going to work through that, but I don't really know. I can't give you a hard number on what the impact will be. And a lot of it is kind of some brinksmanship. I think people, once they kind of get to that point, a lot of people do end up getting the vaccine, but we're not there yet. We're not requiring it, and so we haven't lost anyone yet.
Okay, and I noticed the last year and a half, it seems like Lakewood's become Fife South, except new cars, they got used cars. But I'm hearing about under this this increase in crime, that a number of places are having cars taken off the lot or broken into repeatedly, and some in Tacoma nearby the Lakewood border have had cars taken out almost like it's an open house at night. They just set up a circuit of drivers just taking these things. Is anything like that happening within our city limits?
But I can't say that they're coming from, the car lots or that kind of thing. The most popular vehicles right now seem to be the full-size Ford pickups for whatever reason. Apparently they're easier to steal, but a lot of the big full-size pickups jacked up are coming back as stolen. So it's just something we're seeing across the region. Is increased motor vehicle theft.
Yeah, general deterioration of law and order. Thank all your guys for continuing to come to work. It's not very encouraging.
Absolutely.
Teresa, you had a question. Teresa, you had a
Yeah,
question?
sorry, I was muted. Are any of the new hires minorities?
Yes, we have a couple of, I don't know all the demographics. Honestly, I haven't, because I manage the day-to-day operations. So the chief or professional standards does the hiring part of it. So I haven't met all of them, but I know we do have 2 or 3 females. And beyond that, I'm not sure what the demographics are.
Okay. How many more officers are needed to fill that gap of, because I know you were short.
So with the 5 and the 8, we'll be getting really close to our fully authorized strength of 94. However, the city manager has authorized us to overhire by 10. And that's because we know that this is sort of the start of a big wave of retirements. And that was because when we started in 2004, we had a big group of laterals that came in with 6 to 10 years on. Well, now they're aging out. So we already knew we were going to hit this wave. So about a year ago, the city manager authorized us to overhire by 10. So where we're at now is pretty close to our normal max. And then we'll start working on getting into those 10 overhires. And that's going to create that buffer so that we don't get into this position. We're not constantly behind the power curve. So
Yeah.
if we overhire, we won't have these staffing impacts that, where we have to pull people out of other units.
Okay. And is it correct that the number of officers that we need or can hire or budget for is based on Lakewood's population?
No, our staffing level is dictated by the city council. So that's an operational and budgetary decision.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not set. You may have heard some cities have like a set cap in their city code or something, but we don't have that. It's budgetary decision.
I think when Lakewood was became a city, it was based on population, if I remember correctly. Alan, you'd probably remember that. But my last question is, the unvaccinated officers, are they using PPE?
All officers, vaccinated or not, should be using PPE when the CDC guidelines call for that, which is going into somebody's house where they can't maintain the social distance. Otherwise, they're following our normal masking, like you can see at the grocery store. And then part of our protocol is dispatch is inquiring if anyone in a residence or they call 911 if there's a COVID, caution. And if that's the case, then they are wearing their PPE.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But Teresa, to answer your question, when the department was formed, there was discussion about how many officers we needed. And we did look at population
Okay.
and what was compared what the staffing was in unincorporated Pierce County and other communities around here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of discussion, particularly spearheaded by Mike Zorro's predecessor, Brett Farrar, who complained that with JBLM, we had more of an effective population than showed up on the census. So
yeah,
really, we needed to have more officers than we were getting. And I don't know how much of that the city council takes into account when they make their budget decisions. Early on, I participated in their budget discussions when we first formed the department, and it was really based on population is what our rule of thumb.
okay. Thank you.
John, was that how you recall? You were around then.
Yeah, a lot of agencies, when you talk about staffing, so you can compare apples to apples, will look at officers per population and rate that, whatever that number comes out to, just so you can compare. So that is something you kind of look at as a gauge to what other jurisdictions have.
And do you remember Brett's talking about the impact of JBLM and the fact our population was effectively higher than we were given credit for? Do you remember him talking about that?
Yeah, I vaguely recall that argument being made, and I think you can, at least during the daytime, or maybe in the evenings anyways, when they come off post, the soldiers that live on post. So that does increase our population
Yeah. Yeah, he made the argument several times, but I'm not sure the city council necessarily bought into it. Okay, then any
I have
other
another question. Curious about, this is something that we've kind of had to deal with a little bit over the last couple of years or so, and that's the smash and grab phenomenon, whether or not that actually is occurring here. I know that there's kind of minor things that have happened, and that last year and a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, the LPD has been sort of had a presence at some of the retail places. Is that, how are we looking at that, and what's going on with that? Unless I might have missed that if you already talked about it.
No, I hadn't actually. So we haven't had the giant, caravan of cars show up like you've seen on the news recently. We've had some isolated incidents where 1 or 2 people will go in and, fill up a shopping cart at Ross or Target or Burlington Coat Factory. It's generally all in the town center area, and then, just take off. But we are doing the same emphasis that we've done for quite some time now during the holiday shopping season. We have extra officers detailed to the town center area. And a lot of them are using bikes to increase their presence. So we are doing that emphasis again, and we've got extra officers out. And so far, we, knock on wood, have not had those kind of issues.
Teresa, did you have another question? Okay, anyone else have any questions for interrogating John?
I do. I just have a quick one. This is Mark.
Go for it.
So first of all, I want to bring up kudos to the Lakewood community news thing about talking about the rules for roundabout and the tips for trains. That was awesome that was sent out. I caught that myself, and I hope a lot of people read through that, especially the rules for the roundabouts. Great job there, whoever sent that out. But so I have one question regarding animal control and kind of who controls that or who oversees that, and do we ever keep any track of those incidences and those nuisance animals out there?
We do. So animal control falls under the police department.
Okay.
We have 2 full-time animal control officers, and so they respond. And we also cover under a contract, we cover Silicon and DuPont for animal control as well. The sheltering part of it is a contract with the Pierce County Humane Society. But the animal control and the enforcement is handled by our 2 officers. And then I don't know exactly what you mean by nuisance animals. We have a process for potentially dangerous dogs.
Yeah, let me be clear. Let me clarify those situations in which a dog has actually bit a human.
Right. So that is pretty clearly outlined in the city code. And so it's a potentially dangerous dog declaration. And there's a process, and the first offense, they have to get after the first offense, they have to get an insurance bond. They have to keep the dog chained inside the fence yard at all times and post signs up and that kind of thing. And then after the second time, the city can actually move to take possession of the animal. And there's a hearing and an administrative review process for that, but all of that is in the city code. But once that happens, animal control does the investigation and then goes through that whole process, which is fairly lengthy, but it puts a significant burden on the dog or animal owner to take all of those precautions if they want to keep the dog.
Oh, okay. That's called responsibility, but yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Okay, anything else for John? You're gonna let him off easy? Well, he's Mike's replacement tonight, so we have to make him work, so really sweat, so he complains tomorrow.
I don't think he's been let off easy there, Al.
Too easy.
I'll complain to Mike anyways.
Oh, Mike, or not Mike, John, while we have you, could you update us on Lakewood's emergency preparedness programs?
Sure. So the big news now is that we are part of the West Pierce Emergency Management Coalition. So we have joined forces with University Place and West Pierce Fire, and then come January 1, Stillicum City, or the town of Stillicum, is joining us as well. And so what that allows us to do is each municipality is required by state law and federal regulation to have certain emergency plans in place. So instead of each of us having our own plan, we'll have one single plan. And we're also going to share resources. So if an incident happens in Lakewood, we can call on University Place in Stillicum for their personnel to help staff our EOC, or their public works people to help us out, or whatever we need, and vice versa. If it's a widespread event, we'll open up the Emergency Operations Center in the Lakewood Police Department. But if that's damaged for some reason, we can go to University Place, and we've got some redundancy there. So that's kind of the big news. We just are in the process of submitting our comprehensive emergency management plan to the state. And this will be the first time that it's been done as that regional coalition. It doesn't include Stillicum yet because they're just coming on board, but so that took a little bit of extra work because we had to, broaden that. But again, it's sharing that works instead of University Place doing one and Lakewood doing one. We're just doing one together. And so far, it worked out pretty well. Over the summer, we had a couple of joint responses to just the heat stuff, and it was nice having a little bit deeper bench to pull from. It's kind of the highlight for now. We're still kind of, growing that coalition and working out the bugs and building that up.
Are you going to do tabletop drills as a regional group, consolidated group, or individually?
We will. Some that's been kind of put on hold with COVID. We kind of struggled to train our staffs. We were literally already had the initial training between University Place staff and Lakewood, which they do the same thing we do, is they cross-train their city staff to work their emergency operations center. And we were going to have a in-person meet and greet and do some training, and then COVID hit and we couldn't. And we tried to do it online, but it's really difficult to bring 50 or 60 people into a Zoom meeting and introduce each other. So hopefully this year that will be our number one priority, is getting our emergency operations staff together and trained up and on the same page. But in the meantime, our staff really comes from West Pierce. We contract for the actual full-time positions, and they've already created some of the plans, emergency operations plans, and the checklist for the EOCs, and standardized those across all West Pierce, UP, and Lakewood, so they're all the same. So we're moving that direction. Once we get a little bit of training with our staff, and we'll start doing some drills.
What about DuPont? Are they going to join eventually?
We really haven't heard much interest from them. They're a little bit of an island down there, and that could be. It makes logical sense. And actually, Pierce County Department of Emergency Management supports this regionalization because it really makes their problem smaller. Because now, instead of talking to Stillicum, Lakewood, and UP, they just talk to one, West Pierce. And so logically, geographically, DuPont would make sense. But at this point, they haven't shown much interest in it.
And I didn't hear you mention JBLM. Are they going to have a liaison with the group?
We've got a good relationship with them. They're a little bit different animal when it comes to emergency management because of their federal. And so they're really responsible for their own jurisdiction, and they're also not eligible to receive state assistance because it's a federal institution. So they have to use their own federal resources.
I thought they might have a liaison with you, was my thought, that they would. So in the event of emergency, there would be communication.
Right. We've got that relationship built in. So EOC to EOC and emergency manager to emergency manager. As far as putting somebody in our EOC, that might happen if it's necessary.
Okay. And are you going to include the business community in that so that they are, you have access to their resources?
Well, we take the whole community approach. So we try to reach out to every part of our community. And so it just kind of depends on which disaster and who's hit and whatever. But we'll leverage, those pre-existing relationships. So the Chamber of Commerce and our community economic development department to assist business owners if they're the ones impacted.
Okay. Thank you. Aaron, does that satisfy you?
Alan, those were excellent questions. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, you bet.
Had to make you work a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. Glad to.
Okay, if there's no other questions, let's move on.
I have one quick question, and I'm really sorry. I know we need to move on, but with the unmarked cars, if they leave and it's a situation where you cannot follow them or you can follow them later, so you're just looking for something else to pull them over for? And then what if you get to another jurisdiction? Do you just stop? I would assume it's probably too much work to tell wherever they're going.
Right.
If you don't really have anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. So it's kind of an interesting situation because we still have the legal authority to tell somebody to stop. So if they blow a red light and we turn on our lights, they legally have to pull over. Well, if they take off from us, then a lot of times what's happening is they kind of play this cat and mouse. They'll take off, and officers legally can't pursue now, so they turn their lights off, and then the suspect slows down and starts driving the speed limit again. So the officer will kind of catch up to them and light them up again. They take off again. So we still have the legal authority to stop them and investigate that. So the hope is with the unmarked is that we can follow them at a safe speed. If they take off and they're driving, fast and reckless, we're just letting them go. But if they slow down and they just, start driving, we'll just try to follow them. And then once they get to a location where we can, box them in or safely keep them from leaving again, then we will make an arrest for that eluding.
Okay.
From there.
Okay.
And we can do that outside of our jurisdiction. We have authority to make arrests anywhere in the state.
Okay, so you can follow them and safely stop them when you can, corner them so they can't take off again, and still arrest or give them a ticket or whatever for the original reason they were stopped.
Right, correct.
Okay, and then what happens if you cross jurisdiction, some line?
Nothing. We still have authority to make an arrest
because it happened in Lakewood
and we have the authority to make an arrest anywhere in the state, even if it's outside of Lakewood.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it doesn't really matter where they land. Obviously, we're not, we don't want to police other jurisdictions for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as it occurs in Lakewood and then we follow them.
Okay.
Get them safely stopped.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I have one real quick one, Alan, for John. The comprehensive emergency management plan and the other emergency preparedness plans, are they on your website?
I don't, if they are, it's the old one. We just got our CEMP done and delivered to EMD this week, I believe. So that one won't be posted yet until it's been approved.
Okay. So your EOC plans and your continuity of preparedness and all that, those are being updated too?
Our COOP was updated in 2020, right before COVID. We just got done. Our hazard mitigation plan was finished and approved by FEMA this year. And then our EOC plans, I don't know that we're going to publish those
Okay,
online.
sure, understood. That's all. Thank you.
How frequently will you review and update those plans?
The CEMP and the hazard mitigation are every 5 years at a minimum. And then the COOP, we try to do a little more often than that.
Okay.
Not name specific, but just because people and departments change their structure.
Yeah, that's probably continuous updating.
Right.
To answer Teresa's question, Teresa, our officers are licensed by the state. So if you speed in front of John in Spokane or someplace like that, head for the Idaho border. You can make the border, you have a chance. But this, in Washington State, he can stop you anyplace.
Yeah, thank you. I should have looked that up, but yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Youth council reports. Have we heard anything about youth council members? Nothing. Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
Okay.
I have not.
Okay, what we've all been waiting for, updating the work plan. And in speaking with Council Member Brandstetter this week, he really liked the work that the committee did on highlighting the Clover Creek crossing and upgrading rail crossings, and also continuing to keep the heat on that issue. He told me that it is on the Sound Transit has on the agenda to invest some money into that, although he doesn't have a date or know when that's going to happen. He said they have committed to doing something, but he would like us to continue to remind them about that issue that it has not been fixed. Okay, so that's going to stay on our work plan. Just to remind the council that it's still an open issue. Okay, what I've done is I collected all the ideas that I've been hearing about, and I've been making notes over the past year or so and tried to get input from various people. And then I put them down on a list, tried to organize them a little bit so they made some sense, and got a list of 8 items there. So I'd like to hear from you what you think about them. Joanna, I finished doing this this afternoon, and Joanna was able to get them out to you before the meeting, so you should have had them in your email.
I'll start off. I want to go right down at number 6, photo enforcement. Speed in school zone, red lights. Is it effective? I think it's kind of effective, but I'm not really sure when the lights are on from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10:30 in the morning. That's quite a long time because of the varied hours of school all over the city. I say that because I got stopped in one, or at least I got caught in one a month ago.
That was one of my questions.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was going like, I was trying to figure out what school was open. I didn't see it until I received a ticket. I didn't even have an idea.
Were the school lights on?
I could not. When they showed me the video, they said, yeah, the school lights were on. So that was my fault. But like I said, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't have a clue. It was Park Lodge.
I would say that there sometimes from where you're turning, there really aren't lights.
Yeah.
So I know on the Clover Park side, they can be easy to miss.
Yeah, yeah. And there are some lights that were not synchronized properly. I guess a couple of weeks ago, I saw lights going in one area pretty much all weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And that was down in the Dower area. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm just bringing that up because that really got my attention really quick when I received that photo in the mail, and the video didn't work. So naturally I had to pursue it to figure out if there was, if actually was speeding. So
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Is it?
go ahead.
I understand the actual cameras are expensive, but what about the lights? Because if there's more lights, I feel like they would be more effective. A lot of people, I go on the dot on the speed limit when it's school is in or whatever. Just because I live so close to Clover Park. But people do not see the lights, and then they want to tail you. They want to go 30 and like 40, swerve around you, and it's just dangerous. So if there were more lights, I think it would be more effective.
Okay. Well, what triggered this was the complaints about uncontrolled speeds and people running red lights. And the question, why I put it down there, because the question I was asked was, if the officers can't pursue, can you at least have cameras up there and record people's licenses and license plates and send them a citation?
I'm all
You
for
mean
it.
you mean for wait, what do you mean? You mean because they all don't all have the camera?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, not all the school zones have cameras. There's only two. I think there's only two school zone speed cameras in the city.
Yeah.
Clover
And I
Park
think
High School doesn't have one, for instance.
I think it was Mark said they are rotated. Is that true?
Well, I was told initially when they were putting up the red light cameras that at least some of them were going to be rotated. That may not have been true, but
Okay.
but there's 3 red light cameras now, John? Is that correct? Cord Gate, 512, and I think there's one someplace on Stilcombe Boulevard.
Stilcombe and
Phillips.
Lakewood Drive.
Phillips. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The school zone is on Lakewood Drive there by Lake
Lodge.
Stilcombe.
Yeah.
I think Park Lodge is the other.
Yeah, Park Lodge is definitely one, but I have no problem with it. I just, like I said, I didn't see that light, but I paid the ticket, so I'm good.
Yeah,
and I go slow now.
So there are more school zone lights, but those don't have the cameras. And then there is some infrastructure, so they're not easily to rotate around because you have to hardwire them in and connect to internet and power and all that. So it's not very easy to move those around.
And that's true both with the cameras and the school zone warning lights. Is that correct?
Yeah, the school zone warning lights too, because those are programs, and so they're connected, somehow to the internet, so they can go in and adjust the times and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Is it on a system? Sorry, I should have raised my hand. Is it on a system? So or is it manual? You have to go to each one and manually change it?
It's a good public works question. They do change them. They have to schedule. So we with the school district to get the schedule for that particular school and then put that time window for the morning and afternoon in for that school. I know they adjusted for like Clover Park High School has summer school, so that's why you'll see it operate during summer sometimes. But they should be updated.
Okay.
Now, are the lights only on arterials and the other school zones controlled by signage? Is that how it works, or?
Yeah, I think they were prioritized just because of the expense of putting in the lights, main arterials.
Okay.
Alan, in the pre-pandemic, pre-pandemic, the Tacoma district applied those lights for band practice, football practice,
Mhm.
PTA, which changed it from Tuesday to Thursday and all kinds of, and the only reason they did, well, the pandemic took a whole lot of things off the table, but it got to be quite a chore to go around reprogramming. But if this was ever done, it's borderline harassment to try to have to keep up with all that. So 7 o'clock on a day like this, when it's dark, you don't expect there to be a school challenge in driving.
But if there's people walking around, shouldn't you drive slower?
I think that's probably the case no matter where you are in the country. But I think applying the school zone standard to a PTSA meeting, which may be under attended, seems like an extremely big hammer for the small nail.
What about a football game?
Again, those things move around. I'm not sure.
I think for the football games, absolutely yes. They get really crowded. There's people parking on the other side of the street. Just the other night, I don't know what game it was or what was happening, but the student parking lot was full. People were parking in neighborhoods, walking in. So football games, yes.
Well, what does the committee think? Should we maybe establish a subcommittee to take a look at this issue and then just give us what the options are, that we can either forget it or we can do something with it and provide guidance to the city council? What does the group think? I'll speak at
I've
once.
got my
Okay.
hand up. We've got these 8 items here. Are those are proposals for our agenda?
Oh, yeah,
next year?
Yeah,
Well,
just
we're actually discussing them now. I would rather us look at these and say, is this something we should put on our agenda? Then have this type of discussion where this meeting is running along and,
good point, Mark. Could we perhaps assign these to a group of subcommittees of one or more and take a look and flesh out and come back with recommendations? Should we study those? in
not
detail or
until
not?
they are part of our agenda.
I'm sorry.
Not until they're part of the what we're going to do next, the calendar for next year. And then I think it'd be a great idea. But I think now the issue is, are we going to take number 6 and keep that on our calendar to look at next year? Or are we going to throw it out is the thing we should be looking at. Not that we're going to get a subcommittee ready to study it.
Hey, Alan, this is Mark Terry. I think what Mark is saying is let's just go back to number 1, walk down the list and say, do we need to add this to our agenda for the year or not? Yay or nay, take a popular vote. And then if it's not, we just scratch through it. And if it does stay on there, and then once we identify that, we can come back around to those that stay on the list and assign some people to them so we can address them.
We could do that.
Well, that would come after we've adopted the calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I butt in for just a second? I do want to say that I did receive notice. The chief sent me that they are trying to compile all of our work plans. So they do want us to turn this in by the end of the month so they can get it to city council so they can start setting the calendar for you guys to go to city council. So they do want us to send them our work plan this month.
Okay. I'll just add something here. You're right. Let's add these to the work plan. And then, even if one of them we're not going to discuss until the 4th quarter, if it comes up and it's something big and someone wants to have a subcommittee, then we can do that.
Well,
But go ahead.
the only thing, if we're going to have a subcommittee to look and flesh out the idea for the full group, that committee is going to need time. So we're going to have to assign that subcommittee sometime early in the year. So they have some
Yeah,
time to
that's
look at it.
fine. And maybe we can discuss subcommittees in the next meeting. And I apologize. You and I should have talked earlier, but I do want to say, let's go easy on the subcommittees. Let's, if there's interest or if it's a big enough deal, yes. But we don't need meetings for a meeting or other groups for this group.
Okay.
But yes, if it's needed, let's do it. But I don't want to go crazy with the subcommittees.
Let's take Mark Terry's idea and just go down the list and see, do we want to add that to our work plan? Do we want to talk about it later in the year? Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, item 1. Do we want to talk about, maybe listen to the police and fire youth programs, what kind of impact they have, what the pandemic has done, and do those programs need more support, and what kind of support? Do we want to talk
Are
about?
we talking about safety issues here?
They include safety issues when police and fire department talk with the youth.
I would say no to this, and let's maybe contact the youth council and see if they would just like to attend a meeting.
Do we have a consensus? No.
Well, actually, Alan, fire and police report to us here on these meetings regularly. So yeah, the only absent party is really the youth group. So I think that the input that they bring already addresses some of the issues with this item.
Okay. James?
And
what do you think?
Alan, I can tell you really quick, the only youth program that we have is the police Explorer program, which got shut down during COVID, and we haven't been able to revive it yet. But we can cover that during our police report.
Okay, as the consensus is that we should drop that from the list.
I think it would be fruitful to hear about it, or if it resurrected or brought back in line. But so if the police, if they can just provide it as part of the report, that would be fine with me.
Great. Okay.
We would need some input from the youth though. So,
Yes.
and we only do this every other month. So we don't have much time, even given that it's just December. We got about 5 meetings in order to accomplish this. So.
Okay. Okay. I'll cross that one out. Municipal courts. Anybody? This was one that came up because the municipal courts apparently, I was told, are interested in how they contribute to, or their role in public safety. They think they have a role in public safety. They have therapeutic courts such as the Veterans Court. Do we want to talk about that or just have somebody come and talk to us about that?
I vote to have somebody come and talk to us about it, so maybe they can educate us and see where it goes from there.
Okay.
I agree.
Anybody else? Okay.
Alan, I think I agree, but I think we should put it on the schedule for later in the year. Being that the legislature hopefully is going to do some stuff this year that affects this. Been a lot of talk about it in the North Lakewood Neighborhood Association. So I'd like to see it put on, like, in, do our June or a meeting after that.
Okay, I will put it down as a topic to talk about. And not put it on the work plan. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, the next one was parks. Apparently there were some problems. I guess it was at American Lake Park. There's been some problems this year. And the questions I was asked is Lakewood going to consider changing the policy, perhaps limiting capacity of the park when the weather is very hot, limit the park to just citizens? And is there a way the park can be better designed for public safety, allow access to police and fire department?
I would not limit the parks at all. Especially during heat waves or summer like that. A lot of people don't have air conditioning. They're going to the parks to get out of their hot house. As for accessibility, from what I've seen, everything, I mean, was there an issue with the American Lake incident where they couldn't get in there? Or, I mean, because that parking lot is pretty
it's limited.
wide open. I don't, wait, what park are you referring to?
Well, initially, the initial comments was about American Lake Park. But then I just put down parks in general. Should we, if we're going to do it for one park, you're probably going to do it for all the parks.
My take on this is that we leave this agenda on there simply because a lot of our parks have bodies of waters, and that is a safety concern. Having living right on Lake Steilacoom, I watch this almost every summer, and just kind of my jaw drops at times of what I see out there on the lake, or when I go over to the park where I go to launch a boat or something like that. It's very concerning what I see there. So I would highly recommend we retain discussion of parks and the use of that and the safety concerns there on the agenda.
Okay.
It should go earlier in the year too, before spring and summer.
More boating season.
More
yeah.
attendance in boating season, yeah.
Early in the year.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, the next thing was the city website, the dashboard. And I got this from 2 or 3 people, and then I also heard it from Council Member Dockstetter. He liked the comments that we made, and he was wondering if we shouldn't take a second look at it. And then when I was talking with him about some other issues, we started talking about, are there other measures, other things that we want to add to that dashboard that should be tracked? Because I was asking why those particular items were on there. And he said, because those are things that the city staff looks at. Those are numbers that the city staff looks at. And so the question was, are there other things that we would like to see on there? And do we think that the things that, do we want to take a second look and say, is what's on there effective? And the other thing that came up was, is there a link to West Pierce, their call volume or some of their measures? Could there be a link with that? Because they're also involved in public safety in our area.
Alan?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there are some links. There is some rubrics to deal with the fire department in that, but I don't have a problem really with doing a second look, except for the fact that I spent a lot of time on that and submitted a bunch of stuff, and Ken submitted it and took it into the city. And then we got that letter back from the council. And I thought they kind of blew us off, really.
Okay.
Agreed.
And,
I think we all spent some time on that.
Right. Yeah.
And I would like to have the council let us know what changes were incorporated after whatever groups they had looked at that dashboard submitted information. Because if there were no changes, I don't think there's any sense in us spending a bunch of time trying to go through this dashboard if we're just going to submit some busy paperwork so they can say somebody looked at it.
Okay.
When was that? When did-
They asked, Ken, when was that? It was towards the end of the year, wasn't it? And it's summertime and towards the end of the year.
2020?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
well, 2021.
21, early in the year. I think it
Okay.
was early in the year.
Because before the council had us meet with them,
Yeah.
which was June or
Oh,
July.
okay. Okay.
We all, I think most of us provided feedback on that
Yeah.
site, because
Right.
we all went in and looked, we were asked to look at it and provide feedback, and I think we did.
Right. And
Okay.
then we had some questions about some of the rubrics they were using and whether they were really viable, because they weren't holding true to those rubrics from what it appeared to the information they had placed on the dashboard. And when we got the letter back, they hadn't even addressed that.
Yeah.
The answer was, well, it looks like it's sufficient. Well, okay.
Okay. That answers that. We won't do it then.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not saying we won't do it. I'm just saying,
We want some,
if we're not, if it's going to be kind of a waste of time, which in my opinion it was this last go around, and I could be totally wrong, I don't see why we should invest in it.
well, that could be something that we could possibly talk about when we meet with the city council too. If they want us to take a second look.
Or
Okay,
with my,
but are going to listen this time.
And I just want to tell you guys, I looked it up. You sent the letter to council in July.
July.
So
And I support what Mark is saying. I mean, I was doing some homework and prep for participating on this group, and I agree that there was a lot of work, it appeared, that went into this, and only for very little assessment by the council as far as whether it was something useful or to incorporate or to reconsider. So, I would like some answers as far as some of the items that you brought up before we really do much more on this.
Okay. We'll table that for the time being. Okay. This is one I talked with Council Member Brandstetter about, because he brought it up, and it's something I think he's brought up in our meeting a few times, is fireworks education. The council wants ideas about how do we educate the public about the limitations that they want to put on fireworks. Do we have any ideas? I thought we'd already had talked about that a bunch.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more ideas about that? Where's Ken?
I thought this horse was well ridden.
Yeah, I thought it'd been pretty well beaten.
Yes.
Well, I think one of the things we really wanted to do is to do it during Summerfest, and so we know how that went. We had discussed about trying to do some things with that, which would be a great place to promote it. And I think we also told Chief that when he kind of got some educational stuff together, we'd help promote that and assist him in whatever we could do. If I recall, that's kind of where we went with it.
Okay, I'll put down note Summerfest, but okay, photo enforcement. We want to table that till later in the year, or do we want to take it up as part of the work or our work plan? Yes or no?
I feel this is obviously a very important one. I mean, I myself, just like everybody else here, see a lot of people that are very aggressive drivers. In fact, I watched the intersection, I think at 88th and Stillicum. I watched the railing there that is continually taken out, the T intersection. And I think I counted accidents there a couple times, but I think this is a really important topic regarding school. Yes, school's still in. We got another half a year to go. So I think that this is maybe one of the, I think a higher priority, maybe. And that's just my opinion, humble opinion, because again, I do see the aggressive driving out there. I do see the aggressive driving in school zones. Not everybody is meaning to be a speeder. Sometimes they just don't see the signals. I do live right around the corner from Clover Park, so I understand what when that's mentioned. But so my opinion, I think it's probably it's a good higher priority one, especially public safety concern.
Okay,
Agreed.
everybody
I
agree with
agree.
that?
Yes.
Okay, the next one, trash, that was an issue brought up by Karen and
Yeah.
Teresa, both brought up that issue. Do we want to tackle trash?
I guess my question on this is, can you clarify by basically what you mean by this and how far in the public safety realms, how far down the whole rabbit hole do we go? That's my thought.
Well, with Alan's idea of inviting a public works representative to come and talk to us about what, is there really a problem? What steps are being taken? I think that would be a worthwhile endeavor before we tackle any potential action or rabbit hole or whatever. All I know is that when I drive Lakewood, there is just a lot of garbage and it doesn't reflect well on our city. And there's got to be some kind of a public health / safety element associated with that.
I hear it, and it's a good idea to have them come in and talk to us first, just like the city engineer did about the street lights and the roundabouts when they were looking at that. So I would say if we're going to do any of that, we first have somebody from the city, waste management or something like that, come in and talk to us about that first before we, I say per se, put it on an agenda to address. So we have a better understanding of the problem.
Yes.
I asked this question and Mr. Brandstetter got me a contact with this city, so I can ask them what they do now, but it's obviously not enough.
How about inviting them, your contact, to talk to the group?
Sure, okay.
And can you negotiate that with Joanna so we get it on the agenda, on the schedule? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last item then, and John may have already answered this, public safety promotion. Wes Pierce does a lot. CERT does a certain amount of public safety promotion. And John was just talking about already training police officers to start real time putting information on social media. Is that something that we want to get involved with? Talk about give them the council ideas about where the city should go, how the city should do more in public safety promotion. Because regardless of how much we do, it seems like some people don't ever hear it or read it.
I would say yes. Most of the time, you're only going to hear the negative things. So I think it would be beneficial for people in the city to see the other side of it. I also think that they have to want to see it too. So that information really is out there, but with the way people use social media today, they really lean on it a lot. And so if we had a presence in that aspect, like, I don't know, Facebook, or I don't even know, Twitter, I'm not sure what people in Lakewood are using more.
Well,
I think it would help.
As we want to promote safety, we have reports from the police department and from the fire department and covering these areas all the time. if there was an issue, I mean, who would we have come talk to us about West Pierce and the CERT and all that? It's either going to be one of those two agencies that's going to come talk to us, and they're scheduled every month to talk to us anyway. If an issue came up and was brought up to us, then we would address it, and we would surely take it to the city council. So I don't know whether we need, I don't know who we're asking to come in and talk to us. Are we asking somebody, how do we put this in social media? That's a whole nother question.
Yeah, that's the question is, does more need to be done? Are there any ideas about more needing, anybody want to talk about what's being done and does more need to be done?
I guess the only other person I would be considering invite, because working at Boeing, we have safety, security, they're kind of in their own funnel area there and stuff that we all work together, but along the same lines, safety is kind of separate than fire and security. And so an organization that comes to mind to me would be the Red Cross, and somebody that would come in and talk about safety, could talk about those that aspect of emergency or disaster preparedness and stuff, because they're obviously a large entity that responds to such cases, and they support people here in the local area when there's a fire or something. So I would just say maybe that would be somebody that could be added to the agenda.
We could probably have the Lakewood Communications Manager come and talk.
Yeah.
I was just gonna, I'm trying to look up his name.
John Capriva.
Yes, yeah, he would be great.
Jim Capriva, yeah. Okay. I'll put him on the list then. Come talk with us about what the city's view of it and what more should be done. Okay, so I have then on the list for us to get involved with this year, either talking or actually doing something: municipal courts, parks, photo enforcement, trash, and public safety promotion. That cover it?
Do we want to lift Clover Creek on there? I know they want us to keep it on.
I got that.
That'll be on the list there on top. It's already on
Okay,
there.
thank you.
And also on the list from the list I got was recruitment minority focused. I'm not sure how that got on the list or what that means, but it's on the list. Anybody know what that means?
Yeah, I think that was that from our meeting? And I think it's been brought up before.
Yeah, that was.
I'd like to keep that on there.
You like keep it on there? Okay.
That needs
I
to
think
be
that
on
was
there.
one everybody agreed to keep on last time. So I just
Yeah.
automatically put it on there.
Okay.
And that's an ongoing process for us. So the more people that we can engage in the community to help us with that, come up with ideas. So that's important to us.
Okay.
I think another issue that we've talked about in the past and from the discussions at the North Lakewood Association meeting is the adult and group homes again. Oak Brook is having a problem again with those. And so, in fact, we had a member, they have a group home which sit with sex offenders in it. They're supposed to have 5. And they apparently have quite a few more than that. They had to divide the dining room up in this house into sections so they could get more people in the building. And then they're on a dead end street, and DSHS has leased 2 homes. One of them is for foster children that are waiting placement with foster families. And the other one across the street is for troubled teenagers. I don't think that's the proper terminology. And with that, not only are those 2 group homes right in their community of 26 houses on a dead end street, but there are anywhere from 10 to 12 cars at the end of the street parked there all the time. And so it's a problem with getting safety people in there, fire equipment and the police. And it's right over here. What's the elementary school or middle school right off of Custer? By the
Dower.
Dower. That's Dower
Yeah,
Elementary.
it's in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. We can add that to the list. We've talked about that before,
Yeah.
but nothing happened, so let's bring it up again.
Yeah, and we're soon going to have, it's going to be a way off, but we got 2 other things that are involved with that. The hospital expansion at Western State, and we're going to have the new building that is being built across from the transit center for mental health, I guess I should say. And so that would all kind of pair in with that. They're a little ways off, but it is my understanding that the city has told Western State that there are going to be no permits or anything given to them until they come up with a plan to a 10-year plan future out after they get these buildings constructed. Apparently, one of the things they said they wanted to do, and they get the new hospital built, they want to tear the old building completely down. And when they do that, anybody that's residing there will just be released. That was in their plan.
Good. Okay, we'll add that to the list. Anything else? Any other ideas that we have? Okay, what I will do is then retype this with the few items we've eliminate those that we decided not to talk about and add in the additional one for that Mark just brought up. Anything else?
I just want to revisit one other thing. So, Joanna, time limit of the time that the meetings are allotted for the meeting, and 2 is the other issue is if we go into these, are we going to be able to cover all these subjects in the time allotted doing this every other month? So just considerations that we need to look at if we're going to take on these, and we're going to pull these, I think it's 7 items up now. That's almost 1 a month. And you know how long it takes us to discuss or walk through things and then come to some type of resolution. That's more than 1 meeting. Don't want to,
That's a good point.
I don't want everybody just take an appetite suppressant, or at least dedicate more time to really trying to get this going.
Uh,
Well, I have down 8 items right now. So unless I got overzealous and threw an extra one in there. Honestly, I think the time limit is what you guys make it, but there are only 6 meetings a year right now. And then keep in mind that you are presenting it to city council, and they may take things off, or I guess add too, right? Like, so it might shuffle out, it might not, but.
And the other thing we need to consider, is this the best time for the meetings? 5:15 was an arbitrary time based on, I think it was one of our first members, Rick Bieber, couldn't make it to the meetings from work any earlier. So we just arbitrarily decided 5:15 Wednesday nights for no reason. Is this the best time and best evening to have the meetings?
We've had votes on it in the past, so if you guys wanted to vote on it and do it again, we can.
Yeah, well, think about it. Okay. Yeah, Teresa.
I personally will say I don't work very often, but I do work Wednesday nights, and I have to, not that it's a big deal every other month, I have to like get time off, but again, not too big of a deal. There is a website that you can use, I forget what it's called, but everyone can put in, no, I think there's another one where it's a scheduling one.
Oh,
And
okay.
everyone can put in the days they're available or the times that they prefer, and then we can kind of narrow it down. I'll find that, and I think we should use that.
Yeah, if you'd send that to Joanna, if you find it,
okay.
you can do that.
I don't want to just pick another date and time and then, I don't know,
Okay,
have that not work out.
yeah, you can find the website, send it to
Okay.
Joanna and we'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay, new business. Anybody have new business? Any reports from communities?
Mine, I kind of gave mine. We had our North Lakewood meeting, and the main issue, what we really talked about is the group homes, adults homes came up, and it took up a lot. And there's a lot going on. I did report the last time that there was a residence on the outlet of, not Clover Creek, on the outlet of Stillicum Lake that was having some trouble, and they almost burnt the place down. A whole bunch of stuff went on. And the city did go out there and they removed the individual that was causing the problem, and they've kind of cleaned the area up. So the city did do that. And then there was a little bit of discussion about the upcoming legislature and some things that might be going on with that. So they're active,
Okay.
mostly Oak Brook people.
Mhm.
I look at the Telecom website, or at least the Facebook site, to see if there's anything going on there. They really haven't been active on Facebook since July. So it's just a matter of trying to contact someone else in the community to see if there's something really going on that's not posted to Facebook.
The Springbrook Connections group has been very active, primarily in distributing food and other types of supplies to people who needed it. They haven't communicated any public safety issues. They tend to be very focused on helping the community, but they tend not to say anything about public safety. Okay. Any other reports? Any other comments? Well, if there's no other comments, then I will hear a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Take care.
I'll be talking to you, Teresa.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.